everyone. Welcome back to the Moz House podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Begun, and I'm here with our alumni guest, Beau Bree Rhee. And how are you doing today?
Hi, Hunter. I'm so excited to be here. It's a steamy, thundery Friday afternoon in New York City. And I'm thrilled to kind of continue the Moz House experience via this podcast with you.
Yeah, I am too. It's a great addition to like the your stay, I guess. Even though it was a while ago, however long, it's nice to revisit it. I've learned.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So this will ask everyone the first question. As always, so how would you describe your art?
Oh, that's a great question. Hard one, actually. It could be either really simple or complicated, right?
Yeah.
My art practice, I would describe as quite simply based on dance, drawing, and ecology. And that's pretty in line with the work that I was able to do at the Moz House residency. I have danced now for at least, I would say, 20 years or more of my life. So it's definitely like a through line and a spine that has followed me in my creative work. And then my visual art practice kind of evolved as I began choreographing more work and began doing a lot of sketches and figural drawings and kind of exploring that part of my work. So my master's program was more in the visual art area, and so it's kind of interesting because in terms of grants or like proposals and stuff, everyone always wants you to pick a category. And I've somehow stubbornly been able to kind of traverse both for throughout my career. So that's actually something that I really hold dear and think is important. And I guess a term that encompasses that would be intersectional or intersectionality. And that leads also to ecology, which is something that I'm really devoted to, both in my teaching, in my art practice, in my life, in my work. Ecology being, the study of relationships between living beings and things. And so that definitely also came through in the Moz House work and setting. And we can talk more about that in the podcast. But I think that gives a general idea. Yeah, I work a lot with in drawing with works on paper, ranging from letter size to huge, more kind of trace or gestural drawings of several yards or meters. Also some work on fabric, canvas and silk, and yeah, and a lot of performance. And Jeremy and I collaborated on a dance film while I was there as well, and that was largely thanks to his support and his vision and his equipment too. So yeah, it was a very exciting time. Lots of unexpected work and inspiration.
You do all sorts of stuff. Pretty cool. I have a question about the dancing. Have you ever? So I'm a little upset. I missed it because I'm a horrible dancer, like one of the worst probably. But I've been trying to learn. Yeah, very open to learning. I mean, I even suck at my own tribal dances. I don't know what it is. I just don't have the techniques for some reason. My athletic ability does not translate to dancing. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I think there's some African proverb that says, like, if you can talk, you can sing. If you can walk, you can dance, or something. So I mean, yeah. I don't believe that, but
okay, I can dance. It's just people will question what's going on.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I do dance now. It's just strange.
Dancing is pretty universal, but yeah, I guess there's different degrees to which it articulates in various settings or something like that.
You can really tell when someone's good at dancing, you can really appreciate it. And when someone's bad at dancing, you can also really appreciate it, but for different reasons. So maybe our art is a little similar, but very different. Okay, so you have a lot of different mediums. Do you have a
Mm.
favorite?
Oh, I think it depends on the project, where I head to first, and different media kind of support different um, directions. So I guess as an example for the drawings and the works on paper that I did in the residency, I focused a lot on creating natural pigments from the soil and the shells, the wampum dust that was gifted to me by Shane Weeks, and I just found the fact that the land is and has been unsurrendered for so long really powerful. So for that idea and concept and that kind of amplification of the Shinnecock land, it made sense to work visually, yeah, and
Hmm.
turn to drawing and to visualize that story and that material through that medium. And then for the dance film, it's called Les Parages, which is parage is a word in French which means kind of alternately shoreline, boundary. Sometimes it can mean a neighborhood, and I was interested in well, how the shoreline is ever expanding and receding, but also there's also like social shorelines in Southampton where the tribal nation territory, and then the outside world, let's call it the colonial capitalist America that exists outside it. There's a very clear line, but it's also quite blurred, right? Like
Yeah.
there's intersections, and the Shinnecock folks also exist within Greater America, and so I was interested in that, and for those ideas, it felt really right to dance them somehow. There's so much power in embodying, I guess, ideas like that, and one of the main ideas of that dance piece too was that the indigenous belief that souls move into the body from the east and exit the body from the west. So
Hmm.
this was something that also I learned from Shane, and just something like that I thought would be really beautiful to express through movement and the body. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, I don't know if there's a favorite one, but there's definitely like a right one for each piece and each direction. And I guess I feel lucky that I can kind of choose, I guess, and I have this vocabulary. But yeah, it's been strange during the pandemic too, because the movement was so reduced, and it was very, like, as everyone knows, we were all living these very tiny lives. So it was also really cool at Ma's house to be able to dance outdoors. That was something new,
Hmm.
and to Jeremy and I filmed the dance on Westwoods Beach, which was spectacular and beautiful. So it was such a privilege to dance on this unsurrendered, unceded shoreline. So yeah, it was. I had been drawing a lot during the pandemic. It's something that we can all do kind of individually. But it was really nice in the residency to collaborate with Jeremy outside, and yeah, and dance again.
Yeah. Wow. Very well said. That's an interesting take on it. Different art for different things. You just know which one to do. Hmm. Okay. So, how did you discover Ma's house?
Mm. How did I discover Ma's house? I don't remember.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if there was one moment. I was aware of Jeremy's work. I'm a New York City based artist, but I've spent a lot of time out east, and I think I had seen his work in some shape or form in some exhibition. And then I think like most things, it was probably a friend, sent me something on Instagram or said, "Hey, did you hear about this residency?" Sorry, this is a horrible answer. I wish I
Oh,
had a
it's
more
okay.
nice story.
It's okay. I mean,
But
it's real.
yes, so yeah, sorry for this disappointing story. You can edit this out if it's just boring. But yeah, so when I found out about it, I was immediately like, this is so exciting, because to be completely honest, which I think is what this podcast is supposed to be about, I had been very hesitant to put myself in residency spaces because they did feel very white.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to explain that feeling other than, I come from a family of, academic immigrants, and like this idea of taking time for your own work, and is a residency a vacation. There was like maybe some kind of like immigrant type stigma attached to that as well. But if you look at the rosters of a lot of residencies that maybe are desirable, I would say 9 out of 10 of the artists that are there have been historically white, right? So it didn't feel like a space that I particularly was welcome to. And then the fact that it's also on, Shinnecock Tribal Nation territory is so fantastic, and such a privilege to be able to experience life there. So I was like, this is a no-brainer. I want to apply. And yeah, it was thrilling to receive Jeremy's email. I think it was just before during Yan Yan's residency, and I do think I told her about Ma's house as well. So yeah,
Mm.
I don't know if that's exciting or
That's
anything,
interesting.
but
Wow. Oh, I see. I see. I'm actually. You mentioned like all the the roster people, so I was like, oh, let me give it a look, and it is very interesting seeing like our roster looks very different than most rosters you would see at artist and residence places. It's
yeah,
all POCs.
absolutely.
It's
Mhm.
very very cool. I've never looked at it like that. It's pretty amazing.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, sorry, technical difficulties, everybody. I somehow kicked myself from the call. What a horrible producer. I'm gonna send this to my editor. My editor better fix it. I am the editor, so I'll have to fix it myself. Okay, so right back in. Our last question was, how did you discover Mouse House? Okay, so how does your way of making art change when you're on a residency, when, or I guess against when you're at home?
Ah, well, Ma's house was my first artist residency,
Oh,
which I
cool.
think makes sense based on what I just shared. And I went in really not knowing what to expect. I was making a lot of work through 2020, and then in 2021, I feel like I kind of hit a bit of a wall in the summer. So I remember telling Jeremy, is it all right if are there any requirements to make work? Like, would it be acceptable if it was more of like a research residency and stuff? And I remember him saying, there's no pressure, but you'll be surprised, or you might be surprised when you get here. And that was definitely the case. I can't speak about other residencies, but in this instance, I definitely felt a bit of being called into power. And I think
Oh,
that was thanks to Jeremy's warm welcome. The space is beautiful. It's you feel very supported. Also, I think the format of the individual artists staying in that concentrated time is really great. Um, I made so much work in the month that I was there. It was probably the equivalent to I don't know, maybe 6 months or so, kind of outside, when you're in your life and, taking care of all the things. And I was still teaching concurrently at Parsons during the residency. So it wasn't entirely a break from other work, but just having all that space and time, knowing that it was devoted and reserved for my practice felt really empowering. So, yeah, I mean, and I don't know if that would be the same across all residencies, but, presumably that's the point of residencies.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were definitely some qualities of Moz House that I think are quite special. And yeah.
It's really amazing you're able to get the equivalent of 6 months of work done in 1 month. That's well, I've even noticed that working now that I'm working like at Ma's house.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my frequency of things coming out is now like I've never made 14 things in 1 month or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just condensed, and I'm constantly thinking of new ideas. It's a good It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, just to, I guess, give a little context, there was a series of drawings called Menuise. Those were like a series of, I think, 12 or 13 drawings that we showed 9 of them, like a large scale natural pigment painting, 2 other kind of more what I call corporalities, like large scale dance drawings, and then the dance film. So yeah, I guess even just in terms of volume, if I was making one of those works per month outside of residency, that would even be a lot too. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that would be on.
yeah. So
Okay.
when I went into Ma's house, we weren't planning on having a show or anything at all, actually. And then like the momentum just hit so quickly. So yeah, I think we just agreed, hey, there's so much work being shown. Let's do a solo show. Let's do it. So
Oh,
yeah, I love it when things kind of happen like that. It's
yeah.
you know, organic and fresh.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of art, since that's
Mm.
the whole podcast, I've been this kind of a new question I've been adding to the podcast um recently, but what do you think is the most important personality trait for an artist?
Oh, that's a nice question. Personality trait. There's like 2 that come to mind. Maybe I
Sure.
could do 2.
Saying both, yeah.
Um, I would say simultaneous wonder and stubbornness.
Mm,
Yeah,
those are good ones.
yeah, I think those 2 together kind of have the capacity to create something
It's a
powerful.
simultaneous wonder.
Uh-huh.
I've never heard that before. That's
Wonder and
new vocabulary
stubbornness.
I'm going to use.
Yeah, because I mean, I think wonder or inspiration or these things are really important, and having a different perspective on what everyone else sees. And then there's also just the act of making art, which it takes a lot of time and effort, and you know so I think having that grit or some level of kind of stubbornness that this is important kind of is sometimes the key thing to somebody sitting down and like doing that drawing versus just being like, I don't know, I'll just do the dishes. Or
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. Interesting.
Mm.
Okay. Hmm. I have 2 questions that I think would be good to follow up that, but
Mm.
I'm just going to pick one, I think. Um, okay. So, what work that in your entire career are you most proud of?
Oh my goodness, these are nice juicy questions. Um I think I will also respond maybe with a more enigmatic answer. it will always be the one that follows. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I think the beauty of being an artist is that you can evolve, and having like trophies from the past are not necessarily that interesting to me. Like I'm proud. I'm definitely proud of the work I did at Ma's house. I'm proud of projects I've done in the past, and there's some that come to mind. But I think the reason why I keep making work is also this process of discovery and evolution, and that's really important to me. That the next work is going to reveal something new and different and more expansive.
that's a good answer.
Mm.
Okay. So, there's so many things I want to ask. You only have 15 minutes left. Okay. So,
Well, we could also talk about like the residency experience at Ma's house at some point too.
true, we should talk about that. Okay, so let's talk about that now. What was your residency experience like?
Uh, the residency experience was I mean, I don't want to set the bar too high for everyone else, but it was really incredible. And I thank Jeremy and Brianna and Kelly and Denise and Jeremy's dad and everyone. It felt very much like a community. Um, and in your email before, you kind of had prompted like what were some of your favorite moments, and I have a funny anecdote. Because you know I wasn't used to the town of Southampton very much. Like I've spent more time out in East Hampton, but I remember biking to the Mexican food place and ordering nachos, and yeah, just coming back, and there were so many nachos, and Jeremy gave me his nacho oven heating up tips, and
Yeah.
I don't know, it was just kind of a sweet little anecdote, but that was kind of a fun moment. I don't know why. It just, you know, it's familial. You develop a bond with these folks, and so
You
ranging
guys
from
bonded
things
over
like,
nachos.
sorry.
I was just saying, and you guys bonded over nachos.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course simultaneously there was just this reckoning with colonial grief, and you know just all of the loaded themes that I was experiencing while sleeping and living on unceded land. So the second day, I think, of my residency, Shane Weeks happened to visit, and he was there, and we kind of immediately connected, and he was so generous in taking me to Sugarloaf, and we had a really powerful experience with a historic pestle, and I was already kind of collecting soil and stuff to grind down and make into this beautiful like Shinnecock indigenous soil pigment. And I do think we had sort of a spiritual experience because the pestle heated up as we approached the site of the landback site and stuff like that. So it was, you know, you got nachos in Southampton, you have like landback sites that, you know, I felt there was a deep bond there with some spirits or, you know, beings who were happy that this was being retransferred. Yeah, there was a lot of learning on my end from, you know, I've experienced racism and discrimination, but also learning about an entirely different flip side to the coin of that, which is, you know, the Shinnecock and the indigenous folks of New York have been here for 10,000 years. And, you know, the last 300 or 400 years, it's pretty recent, but kind of, you know, thinking of the racism that and the violence that has accompanied life of this community of the last 100 years. Like, this was pretty, it's different to learn about it in a textbook and then to actually be there. So that was really powerful. I wrote an artist statement in the solo exhibition, which maybe I think I'm just going to read some of it.
Yeah, please do.
So the show was November 16th to December 16th last year, 2021, called Les Parages. So that was the title of the dance film. So if through this work I can change how one person perceives soil, land, and the dialogue of elements, my work here is done. If through this work I can bring to light the power of this never surrendered land, my work here is done. And footnote, I want to say that like the land did feel and look very different to me, even just the ecology, right, compared to the surroundings of Southampton and the manicured lawns and all this stuff. The fact that the word culture originally comes from the root concept of cultivation has felt deeply and acutely present in my residency here. Cultivation is an act of care, an act of nurturing, an act of support and sustenance. For art to be considered a form of cultivation has never felt more right or true. To be here, to be welcomed, to learn and create on this never surrendered land of the Shinnecock has been transformative. Some days almost haunting. I've had spiritual encounters, undoubtedly, especially while visiting the first landback site on Sugarloaf Hill in Southampton. The visible and invisible energy of the land is tactile. The verdant biodiversity of plants and trees differs from the manicured rigidity of the surroundings. More land should look, feel, and sing like this. In 2021 is not the most fundamental, or in 2022 is not the most fundamental radical transformation needed in our society to be found in the recreation of our relationship between ourselves and land. For too long, the planet and people have been degraded by the violences of colonialism, capitalism, and white supremacy. In Marie-Monique Robin's book, The Fabric of Pandemics, she explains, through her research with hundreds of scientists, how the species of bat that disseminated COVID-19 was a climate migrant fleeing its original territory as a result of deforestation, which led to weaker immunity, ultimately resulting in the last 21 months, well, now 2.5 years of our lives. So just, I think it's like one more minute. There's a grief I felt too that the Indigenous people have had to endure so much violence and suffering. I understand that as a BIPOC kind of Korean American French diasporic female, having lived a certain breed of that, as did my ancestors. So definitely Korea has had its share of colonialism and whatnot. I've refelt rage towards this colonialism that has exploited so much land from this local setting to the global scale. And realizing that we are feeling the blows of that violence in this age of extreme climate change hurts. While also feeling these aches and pains, it is a relief to be here. And the relief is so deep to be on this beautiful, never surrendered land, to be in a BIPOC art space. These people and this land are here living now. These 800 acres rustle in the wind with a beauty that is alive, rooted in a time that is deep, millennia. Even as I feel the scars, there is an incredible safety here. I am seen, I am welcomed by my peers, I am told to slow down, be myself, to learn, to lay into the land, the sea, and let it all hold me. So that's, I think that says a lot, and probably better than if I just start rambling. It's very fresh from that time. So yeah.
That was a pretty amazing passage. Very well written, I have to say.
Thank you. I'm happy to share it again and look at it too. I mean, it, you can kind of feel the emotion that was there.
Yeah. Definitely. You're scholars, right? I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a researcher. I'm an assistant professor at Parsons, so I gotta be able to work verbiosely kind of express myself at times.
Yeah. Definitely sounded very scholarly, which is something I enjoy for sure. It's good, like middle ground of artistic and scholarly
Hmm.
just meeting together. That's
Oh,
pretty
that's good. Yeah,
pretty
sometimes I
awesome. Yeah.
worry it gets a little bit too, you know, up in the clouds, but hopefully not.
Yeah, that. Well, I mean, I don't know all your other passages, but that one in particular, I think that one's great. 10 out of 10. Um, recommending it to everyone. Listen to that again.
I
And
can also we can figure out a way to share it too if it works on the website or directly in the
yeah,
podcast or whatever, because
if there's like a link to it, we can definitely put it in the bottom of the, or not the bottom, but we'll put it in
mm,
the description. It'll just be right under
mm,
the
mm,
podcast.
mm.
Hmm.
Great.
Okay, so we're nearing the end of the podcast, but there are a few more good questions.
Mm.
Okay, so I mean, you kind of, I think I know the answer to this question, but I would like to get a little more context to it. Do you believe in ghosts and spirits? And if you do, could you share a paranormal experience?
Oh my goodness. This is a great question. So I'm yes, I have had encounters with you know, spirits and beings and stuff. I recently had one again out east, but um yeah, I think it was the ghost of Lee Krasner.
Oh,
She lived, in the Jackson Pollock house for decades after he tragically died in that car accident. And I remember visiting, and um, her bathroom was like fully red, like which was very interesting to me. I'd never seen anything like that before, like red curtains, red towels, like not the walls, but all the accessories.
mm,
And then it was in March of this year, and basically it's a long story, but long story short, there was an unexplained red light bulb that turned on and turned off by itself, unexplainably, and the bulb was not actually red in like physically in our world, like when I went
oh,
back to look at it. Um, and yeah, the only explanation I could think of was that it was some kind of greeting or something. It didn't feel mean or scary or anything, but it was very shocking.
wow.
Yeah, very, and yes, there was like experiences such as the heating up of the stone, which especially if you're there with two people, and it wasn't just myself, but if another person like Shane is there and he was like, oh yeah, this is happening, it's strange. I think
Hmm,
there's more to life than meets the eye.
agreed. It's interesting that the red. Usually, when I experience anything paranormal in the color red, I'm like,
Mm.
oh, this is not gonna be good. Or there's some type of. I mean, usually my first thought is like, oh, there's a demon here or something. Maybe not a
Mm-hmm,
demon, but just
mm-hmm,
something is angry if things
mm-hmm,
are looking red.
mm,
Um, but like maroon is also kind of like more like a godly spiritual color.
mm.
So
Oh, that's a really
it's
nice
hard.
distinction. Yeah, I think it was. I mean, it was pretty red. It was like scarlet,
Yeah,
but I mean, yeah.
that could also just be their color,
Right,
which is
exactly.
interesting.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
also red is the Moz House color.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. So I guess it's just my preconceived connotations of that. From my experience, there have been some other red rooms that I've been in, especially at like parties. I'm like, well, this is the bad demon room. Um, should not be in here for
Yeah,
very
speaking
long.
of color, I have to say, staying at Moz House really changed my experience of red.
Mm.
Like I am in my work, I'm like much more of a blue, black, tan. I mean, kind of um, in that spectrum, but yeah, the red at Moz House, I'm I'm more open to it. It feels energizing and exciting and passionate and, engaging and all these things. Whereas before, I think I felt more like this connotation of like the demon and, all this
Mm-hmm.
other stuff.
Yeah. It's hard to, I mean, I guess anything could be any color,
Right.
but it's like giving it new life. The color red, it's no longer necessarily bad. I have a lot of red around me now, actually. All my
Hmm.
recording devices are red. Um,
Oh.
and yeah, it's always interesting. I like to see the colors of like the what's the word for it? I guess not for lack of a better term, coincidence. Although it's not coincidence, it's just like the colors of the things. The recording is red. All this good stuff is just all makes alls together some reason. I know I just made no sense. Anyone listening, sorry, I didn't articulate that properly, but hopefully you can get the gist of what I mean. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, you had a good answer. That was a good one for that. Okay. Okay. So, is there something I should have asked you about, but I didn't?
Mm. Um, yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is maybe was this your first time at the Shinnecock Tribal Nation?
Oh, okay.
Because
Was this your first time?
it was not. The first time this is kind of a cool story. So the first time I went out to the Hamptons, I think was in 2010 or maybe before 2009, 2010. It was for a festival that was on the Shinnecock the grounds, which when I told folks there, everyone was kind of surprised. They're like, "Oh, that's really rare." Um, so it's kind of funny. My experience of the Hamptons, especially that first time, was so different from the preconceived notion of the Hamptons. So I ended up really enjoying it, and yeah. And then I went back many years later with another kind of yeah, this other relationship, and we spent a lot of time up in Springs,
Hmm.
yeah, in East Hampton. But
So,
yeah, I somehow
was that
dodged.
powwow?
Yeah, yeah, I think it
Okay.
was a powwow, but there was also like a market, and there was an overnight music festival. I think it
What?
was run by like I Love New York or something. I don't know if it
What?
continued.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely not. What the heck? How'd I miss this? I didn't even know this happened. Did not even know that
I
existed. That's
mean,
insane.
yeah, I the folks who I told about it on the res, they a lot of them did remember it, so it did happen. I mean, it could also be that maybe you were away or, but
I was also like 12 years old. 11 or 12 back then, so
oh my
I was
gosh,
in the,
so young.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm dating myself. I was like maybe 20 or something. Yeah, anyway, but so yeah, I somehow like dodged the bullet of going out to the Hamptons and you're surrounded by like a lot of drunk, ridiculously wealthy people and it's
Hmm.
obnoxious and crazy. So yeah, it's really nice and synchronous that the residency kind of called me back to that space after all these years.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
pretty rare. Someone the first experience is in Southampton
I
is
know.
Shinnecock.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it was really cool. And yeah, I hope to go back more now and I've went back and visited I think a couple times or once or twice. Yeah, a couple times. Um and I steward a small slice of land. It's a very queer little piece of land out in East Hampton too. So
Oh,
yeah, whether
oh.
you like it or not, I'm gonna come back to Ma's house, Hunter.
You're more than welcome to. The powwow's coming any day now. Labor Day weekend, so like a
Right.
week.
Oh man, that's really
Our
soon.
first public powwow in like 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
So it's exciting. I'm
Very
actually
exciting.
shooting a documentary there this year. over the next two
Oh,
years,
great.
actually. Yeah.
Wow,
Not
that's
all
so
the equipment's
exciting.
come in yet, but
Mm.
90% of it has. So hoping to get everything ready for
Oh
that.
man. Yeah, there's always a lot cooking over at Ma's house. It's
Yeah,
exciting. Yeah.
always is. I
Hmm.
know right now kind of feels like everything's taking, everyone's taking like a breath before the, as I would call it, the shitstorm of powwow that we're gonna have to deal
The
with.
calm before the storm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
going to be,
mean,
it's always insane.
right, right. And especially after this long break. Yeah.
Hmm.
Our fall semester's starting in 3 days on Monday, and
Wow.
just like the middle to end of August always feels a little bit like impending doom, and it's
Yeah,
so hot
impending
and
doom. Exactly.
humid, and da, da, da. But it's always great when like the fresh September hits, and you're like, oh, finally, it's all
Yeah.
happening.
I can't wait for some nice cool walk outside and the air is cool. I was like, oh, I can
Mm-hmm.
actually breathe a breath of fresh air instead of a breath of
Hmm.
humid air. Drinking water while I breathe.
Right.
So,
Yeah, no, it's nice for a couple months, and then at this time, I feel like your body's kind of just like, ah,
yeah,
get me out of this sludge.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I can't do it anymore.
yeah.
Um, I can't.
Yeah.
I've done the, I've tried, and I've succeeded, but I'm ready for it to become a little cooler.
Mm.
It was actually also just in East Hampton yesterday, and I never go over there. Like never really.
Yeah, it's funny how like divided it is. I mean, it is very long. It is Long Island, and the traffic is bad. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not a local out there, so I think it's funny how people just like stay in their little. But I guess it's the same in the city. You just kind of stay in your neighborhood mostly, unless you.
area. Yeah,
Yeah.
you only go if you have to. Really, you're like, oh, I have to. And if you go, you're like, I'm gonna go do 8 things over there since it's an hour
Oh,
away. Yeah, it's
wow.
not really
Yeah,
an
yeah,
hour, but
yeah.
it takes a long time to get there. I only did one
Exactly.
thing,
I didn't
but
realize because when I was at Ma's, before going to Ma's house, I thought, oh, I'll go to East Hampton all the time when I'm there. But in fact, I think I went once or something.
yeah,
It's
once is
it's a
enough.
distance. Yeah. Um,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
Jeremy and I are gonna be he's gonna be shooting an upcoming project of mine in September in about a month, so that's really
Oh,
exciting too.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm I'm happy that I'm, able to be still connected. It feels like also a sense of community has developed through Ma's house. Um, and I know artists are now coming from all over the world, which is incredible. But I'm like relatively local, so that's also been really nice to have this experience and like have it flourish and develop in different ways.
yeah. You're pretty close by.
Yeah,
Yeah, relatively close by.
just a
Yeah, it's
Long
within.
Island Railroad trip away. Uh,
Yeah,
2 hours.
yeah, yeah. It feels like I'm like Brooklyn feels so close, but yeah, it is so far. And then because the damn traffic
Ugh,
and travel time.
right.
Yeah. All right, so this is the last question.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, yeah. How did you become an artist? And how has Ma's House, how has this experience of working at Ma's House kind of changed your work?
Oh my god, how did I become an artist? That's a good
Yeah.
one. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna take everyone way back, which is like 15 years, I guess.
Mm,
I was like really into making videos with my friends. We got like these. There was these flip camcorders, I guess they were called.
mm,
It was just like a brick with a camera on the other side. So we'd make like stupid YouTube videos and stuff. And then we kind of stopped as we got older. But I always
mm,
come up with like video ideas. I was like, oh, it'd be fun to make a TV show. And then I went to school and I went to college. Did not finish college, but when I was
mm,
there, I was like not doing as good as I should have been because I didn't really
mm,
care about what I was doing.
mm-hmm.
So, which is like a big. It's like that's not how it works for everybody. People can tough it
Right,
out,
right.
but for me, I just could not. I've always been pretty good at like test taking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I should have been doing better if I was like
Mm-hmm.
even
Mm-hmm.
giving like 35% effort. I just could
Right.
not do it.
Hmm.
So then I left and then wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then I really, really, really thought about it for like a few months. Um, and I was like, I want to make videos and music videos and work with other artists and eventually go into TV and
Mm.
movies and tell like storytelling is basically
Mhm.
storytelling,
Mhm.
comedy,
Mhm.
all that type of stuff.
Cool.
So I actually then moved to Philadelphia with
Mhm.
3 artists
Mhm.
and kind of just started cultivating myself and trying to work with them. Um, and then actually I ended up not working with them as much as I was hoping I would end up working with them. But I had some other friends who are extremely talented.
Mhm.
And so I started working with them much more. And I realized I liked it. And although it was like, what I will say I'm much better now than I was then, I could
Mhm.
see there was potential. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep trying to do this.
Mhm.
And then here I am now, fast forward.
Mhm.
Um, and then working at, I guess the second part of the question is working at Mom's house. The amount of work and the people I have to do. So like, the other artists are inspiring because they all do these amazing things. I'm like, oh, that's pretty
Mhm.
cool. Let's see how I can maybe use what they've done to bolster my skills. Like, oh, so they did this for that. Maybe I could add that
Mhm.
technique into what I
Mhm.
do. And yeah, and now that I'm in Southampton more, just being surrounded by artists make me want to make
Yeah.
more art.
Mhm.
It's really
Mhm.
who you're surrounded
Mhm.
by.
Mhm.
Used to be surrounded by capitalists all the time, and it still rubs off on me. Like I am in somewhat of a capitalistic mind, just because that's what I was interested in,
Mhm.
somewhat like marketing and stuff.
Mhm.
But you need money to make TV shows, so I gotta have a little
Yeah,
bit at least
I
in my
it's
head.
hard to escape fully capitalism, you know? I think it's a but it's kind of your choosing what to focus on, you know.
Hmm.
And I'm also more in this school of like I have to care about what I do in order to excel. And it's nice to hear that it sounds like it's been a mix of your own passion, but also being surrounded with the right people. It sounds like it's
Hmm.
kind of helping you
Yeah,
carry it
I
on.
guess
So.
I'll share some advice with everybody listening.
Mm.
Um, if you don't like what you're doing, try to find some new people to hang out with because they will introduce you to a lot of new things. And
Mm.
you honestly, say you're kind of like a everyone you hang out with kind of turn into them. If you're
Mm.
hanging out with people who aren't doing great things, you're definitely
Mm.
not going to. Um, you're more than likely not going to do great things just because they're not really holding you back, but
Mm.
they're holding you back in the end. They're kind of just dragging you down with them.
This is a
Yeah.
great also tie into Ma's house because I felt I think a large part of being in residency there is to also being in community with Jeremy, right? And
Hmm.
yeah, so that definitely was kind of a you know I'm searching for the right word. A really nice current to push you forward in
Oh,
ways
I see.
that you wouldn't, you know.
Jeremy's a wave. You gotta ride the wave, or he'll crash you down.
No, totally. There's just so much going on, so much ambition, and yeah, I think. Oh, and definitely Brianna. She, I think she had moved in really relatively recently when I got there too, but also having her work and also just as you said, being in dialogue with all these different voices and talent definitely lifts your work
Yeah,
up to
100%.
a higher standard. And yeah, and just like the breakneck speed, it was just like, oh my
Hmm.
god, that was I think that was largely self-motivated though. There was I think also everyone create something new and different and special there of their own, with their own kind of personality traits when they're there too. Like whether that's
Hmm.
the big mandala or some people I think focused more on like workshop and education. There's no like one right way to experience it. Ideally you grow and you do something unexpected and new, and yeah.
Well said. Okay, well, at this time of the podcast, I would like to give you this opportunity to just plug your social medias, your websites, where people can read that article. Not really article, the what did you
The
call
artist
that?
statement.
The
Yes, it
artist
was the
statement.
artist statement. Yeah.
Yes, I've actually never written an artist statement. Hopefully, one day I do. Okay, and you can endorse anything you want to endorse. It's just your time to
Oh, okay.
say whatever you want.
Well, I have not yet put that text up publicly anywhere, but I will do so on my website. My website is atelierdigeste.com. So ATELIERDEGESTE.com. It's my studio name that I started right out of graduate school, and it just means the studio of gesture, which I think was a nice way, and still is, to encompass like all the different kind of creative work that I do. The social media handle, I only use Instagram, and lately I haven't been on it that much, but it goes through waves. If there's a couple big things coming up in the fall, so I'm sure I'll be on it. The handle is Atelier Digeste, also ATELIERDEGESTE. I don't have too many other social media things. I'm kind of hosting a hack Spotify podcast called Body Space Ecology, and that has some interesting conversations around ecology, race, the future of biomaterials, like algae, stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, it's called Body Space Ecology, and it's on, I think, Apple and Spotify podcasts. Yeah, there's a link on the website to sign up for newsletters if you're interested in finding out more about kind of my work. I send them out about maybe 3-4 times a year when there's exhibitions or performances or something interesting happening. And yeah, everyone should check out also the amazing New York Times article about Ma's House. I was so thrilled to have some images of my work featured in it, and it does a great job telling the story of how how the space was created and how it's developing. So yeah, I think that's it. If you want to reach out or have any questions, the email is also on the website, but you can just email studio@atelierdigeste.com. I love hearing from people, especially if you're in this fold, and I like to feel that we're a community. I try and stay in touch with the folks I met there through social media and stuff. So yeah, thank you, Hunter. I think that's all.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna put all that stuff in the description so people can check it out easily. Having to
Thank
listen
you.
and spell things gets a little confusing like that. But yeah, thank you so much for being on. It was great.
Thank you. I'm so glad. And all right, talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you. This is the Moz House podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Hopefully everyone made it to the end. If you did, you're my favorite, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Mine too. Okay.
Yeah.